Sorry, this is kind of a pretentious way to start a video. We'll do a more standard style of intro. There are lots of people who would like to teach you lots of things about what it takes to make it on YouTube. I've pointed out before that some of this advice is pretty bad. But also, some of it is pretty good, and there's lots of things I wish I had known when I was first starting out on YouTube. Oh hey, that's the title of one of the videos trying to teach you things about YouTube. Still, when it comes to YouTube, really when it comes to life in general, there are certain lessons you just need to learn for yourself. People will try to teach them to you, but somehow, no matter how many times you hear it said, you don't realize how true it was until you've already made the exact mistake everybody kept trying to warn you about. Now you may be thinking, wait a second, by making a video about these lessons that can't really be taught, aren't you actually trying to teach them to people even though the whole premise is that that is an impossible thing to do? No, you can't outsmart me that easily. See, I believe it is still useful to hear these things, even if they only really sink in once you've experienced them for yourself. That way, at some point in the future, you may find yourself thinking, damn, you know what? Corey was right. Corey was right all along. The other thing to keep in mind is that everyone is at a different stage in their YouTube journey. Sorry, I really hate using the word YouTube journey, but I couldn't think of anything better to write. The point is, while some of you may have yet to experience the things I'm going to talk about, others will have already faced these challenges and directly relate to them. So on the one hand, it's nice to know you're not alone in the struggle, and on the other hand, it will be nice to know you're not alone in the struggle once you realize you're in the struggle. Or something like that. I think this intro is over now. Now, lots of people will try to teach you this lesson. Anyone who's honest about YouTube will be the first to tell you it is brutally difficult. Mr. Beast is often quoted for saying you need to make 100 videos before you even worry about a single one being successful.
This applies to people who have not uploaded videos but have dreams of being a YouTuber, is make 100 videos and improve something every time. Do that. And then on your 101st video, we'll start talking like maybe you can get some views.
I've personally made 43 videos, counting this one, so I guess that's why I'm not successful yet. While there is certainly truth to it, I think Mr. Beast's advice is an overgeneralization, and this is part of why I think you can't really learn this lesson until you've experienced it. Virtually everyone who sets out to become popular on YouTube, and everyone who succeeds at becoming popular on YouTube, will experience some form of failure along the way. But how much failure and what type of failure you experience can be very different from person to person. That said, there is a common trajectory that maps closely to a lot of different people's YouTube journey. A common trajectory on YouTube might look something like this. You start off with low expectations, post some videos for fun, experiment around, and see what happens. At first, nothing happens, and that's fine. But then maybe one of your videos does well. You gain some subscribers, get more views than you've ever gotten on a video before, and suddenly all you can think about is making that happen again. Then you realize it's not so easy to make it happen again, and so you enter the dip, wherein you are constantly reminded, even if you continue to have the occasional hit video here and there, that making it on YouTube is really hard. Now, the reason why I drew this little graphic and called this section the dip is because it was referenced by YouTuber Daya in a video explaining how reading a book called The Dip kept her from quitting YouTube. And then in another video, Aprilyn Alter shares her advice for getting out of the so-called YouTube dip, and I think this is a nice idea to apply to YouTube. But like I said, it's important to keep in mind that everyone's version of this is going to look different. For some people, their experience on YouTube may feel like it's entirely a dip, just posting video after video and getting a tiny amount of views each time with no breakout hits or initial feelings of excitement. Maybe you did a ton of research about YouTube before posting even a single video, and you felt like you had a good handle on what it takes to succeed, and then your dip comes immediately when you realize it's even harder than you expected for your content to get noticed. The dip can even affect people who seem to have found incredible success on YouTube in a very short time. For example, Maggie McCormick posted her first video on August 30th, 2024. A few months later, she posted a video about how YouTube was changing her life with less than 1,000 subscribers, and just about a month after that, she posted this video that now has over 5 million views, and Maggie's channel currently has close to 200,000 subscribers. And I think a lot of people would assume this is sort of the end of the story. You had a massive viral hit, you got discovered, you got your silver play button, and yet, as of recording, none of Maggie's last 7 videos have reached even 10K views. Now, to be 100% clear, I'm not at all using this example to call out Maggie as a failure. I think her content is very authentic and contains a lot of useful advice. And just because her last few videos haven't gotten a ton of views doesn't mean she has failed at YouTube. But it does show just how hard this can be. If you start a channel and within the first 6 months of posting videos, get an incredible viral hit with 5 million views, and in the process go from less than 1,000 subscribers to close to 200,000, it can be hard to swallow the fact that there is still no guarantee that what you post in the future will get even close to that level. Honestly, from what I've seen from Maggie, it seems like she has a really good perspective on all this. But all I know is if I was in her position, this dip would feel frustrating and it would feel like failure. Ideas like the dip are useful because they make you realize you're not alone in experiencing this challenge, and a lot of people will tell you that understanding the dip means reframing it not as a sign of failure, but as a necessary and difficult part of the YouTube. Here's the reason why I say this is a lesson that can't be taught. Failure hurts. It can hurt a lot, and no matter how much someone tries to prepare you for it or reassures you it'll all be worth it in the end, when you're deep in it, pouring hours upon hours into making videos only to get a small number of views, it can be really hard. Most of the time when you see this dip graphic, it goes like this, implying that if you can just fight your way through the dip, you'll eventually, finally find the success you've been chasing. But the whole point of the book that sparked this idea is not to keep going at all costs. It's knowing when to push through and when to quit. Lots of people who encounter the brutality of the YouTube dip end up quitting YouTube. And for a lot of people, that might actually be the best decision they could make. But for others, maybe you really were only a few months away from actually breaking through if you could just keep going. But the anxiety of trying to figure this out and the pain of your videos not getting any views is something you'll only be able to fully understand once you're in it. Of course, there are the rare channels whose very first video is a massive success and they seem to only go up from there without ever having much, if any sort of dip along the way. But when you see something like that, you need to ask yourself, is this their first YouTube channel? Maybe they've had tons of other failures and dips that you'll never see because this channel is actually the culmination of a ton of other less successful work. It's important to recognize how universal these themes are, but it's also important to understand that there's a certain amount of pain you just have to face and accept. And whether or not you can handle that pain may ultimately tell you whether you have what it takes to be a YouTuber. There is actually one way to never have to worry about the pain and suffering of the cursed dip. And that is simply to only post YouTube videos for fun and never worry about how many views they get or how many subscribers you have. You make videos for you. And if a few people happen to watch, great, but you'll never let it affect your emotional stability in any way. You'll never let it affect your emotional stability in any way. There are people who approach YouTube this way, and I have a deep respect for them. But maybe a more realistic approach, if you don't happen to fall into that category, is to acknowledge that, yes, you do get excited when a video gets a lot of views, and disappointed when it flops. And of course, you'd love to have more subscribers, but you also understand that YouTube is a hobby, and there are plenty of other fulfilling things going on in your life that are more important than the number of views you are or aren't getting. Unless, of course, your goal is to make YouTube your full-time job. And it turns out a lot of people have that goal. And even if you don't dream of being a full-time YouTuber, even if you just think, hey, maybe YouTube could be a fun side hustle to make just a little bit of extra income, you're still gonna have to deal with the fact that you spend way too much time thinking about how to succeed on YouTube. And again, there are lots of people out there who will try to teach you this lesson. There are lots of strategies for defining your goals around YouTube and what you consider to be marks of success. How much time you can afford to put into it, how often you want to post videos. If you want, you can treat YouTube as a business and write a whole business plan for it if that seems useful. But no one can tell you what you want from YouTube and how far you're willing to go to get that. To understand that, you have to embark on your own, at times painful, at times wonderful, messy, beautiful, and wholly unique YouTube journey. Woo! When I first started posting YouTube videos, I didn't really know what I wanted. At first, it was a way to learn how to use a DSLR camera, work on my editing skills, but still have a place to post my work when I finished it, as weird and experimental as my early videos were. Then, one of my videos did well, and I'd like to say it was the first time I thought about whether I could turn YouTube into a career, but if I'm being honest, I'm sure I thought about it long before that. But at no point did I have any sort of plan or set of objectives for what trying to succeed on YouTube was actually going to look like. Some people go into YouTube with a very clear objective, like say being the next Mr. Beast. That might not be a realistic objective, but at least it's clear. Other people have more modest and potentially realistic objectives, like using YouTube to help grow and promote an existing business. But it's important to understand that you might think you want one thing from YouTube, but then when you actually start posting videos, you might realize you want something different. And this can hit you from either side. Maybe you started off just posting videos for fun, but got so addicted to the thrill that now all you can think about is doing it full time. Maybe you were dead set on getting monetized as quickly as possible and turning YouTube into a profitable side hustle, but once you realized how difficult that can be, suddenly it seems a lot easier to just make random videos about whatever purely for fun. You can easily find yourself 3 years into posting videos and suddenly realize you no longer know what you want, or why you're doing this, or who you are, or if anything humans do on this strange rock hurtling through the cosmos has any meaning whatsoever. Sorry. You don't need to be special to be successful on YouTube. You don't have to be insanely charismatic on camera or have some incredible skill. You don't need to be willing to brutally humiliate yourself in public or camp in negative 60-degree weather. Ultimately, you just need to find something you can offer that people are interested in. But you do need to find a way to do that that works for you and ideally plays to your skill set. The obvious place this leads is the popular topic of finding your niche. But what it means to find your niche and how to do that effectively is a big enough topic that I am going to leave it for a separate video. Because I think there is a deeper level to consider that goes beyond whatever niche you end up in. There are lots of ways to be a YouTuber. You can have a professional camera and lighting setup, you can have this stupid SM7B microphone, or you can just shoot everything on your phone. You can memorize a script, or read from a teleprompter, or speak totally off the cuff. You can edit together a bunch of different takes, or do everything in one long continuous take. Good luck. You can speak loud and confidently on camera, use the so-called YouTuber voice, or you can be a little shy and awkward in a way that's kind of charming. You gotta find your vibe. Which is actually a lot harder than it seems, because when you start out, the easiest thing to do is just copy the vibes of other YouTubers. And it's not to say you're going to end up with some super unique, awesome style that's never been seen on YouTube before, although that would be pretty cool, because everything is ultimately inspired by something else. But it is important to figure out what works for you. It doesn't mean you can't evolve your style over time, and it doesn't mean there is only one perfect style out there for you, because we can all play different characters on camera. But it helps if you have something that your audience can recognize you for, that helps you stand out from the crowd, even if only a little bit. Honestly, this is something I struggle with. As much as I do think there are common threads across most of my videos and how I present information and the style of humor I use, I've often found myself trying slightly different approaches in each video I make. I think I'm probably closer to finding my style than I was a couple years ago, but in the words of Miles Davis, sometimes you have to play a long time to be able to play like yourself. He probably meant that about music, not YouTube, but I think it still applies here. YouTube's kind of like jazz. YouTube's kind of like everything. I think the biggest thing I've learned about myself by creating YouTube videos is how deeply I feel the need to create things and share them with an audience. At some level, I've known this my entire life, but as I've gotten older, I have at times pushed off that desire to pursue other things. But even with the relatively small following I've built on this platform, it never gets old to know that my perspectives are resonating with people. And maybe you'll discover the same thing about yourself, or maybe you've already discovered that, or maybe you'll realize it's really not worth the pain that comes with it and that there are plenty of other things you could be spending your precious time doing. But whether you're on one of the peaks of sheer elation or deep in a dip of a valley of despair, there are really only two choices. Keep posting YouTube videos or don't.